We have 4 of the cast members and also the director of the next show that's being put on by Cast Theatre, Mixed Couples. And I should tell you right away that tickets are on sale now, so please hurry and buy some tickets. Zainab, you are the director, Zainab Guess. Would you tell us a bit about the show and why you chose to put it on?
The reason I chose the play is because I felt that it was familiar to many people in our county. Personally, I haven't swapped couples, but I imagine there's some people in our community who have, and this play is extremely witty and well written, and I absolutely love the way it takes you down a road of how relationships have an ebb and a flow.
I need to ask you one important question, Zainab. I am sure our listeners are already wondering, what do you mean by swapping couples? That might mean something different to what you mean.
Well, okay, so the play is called Mixed Couples, and what I mean by swapping couples is if, let's say, you've married one couple or you've married one person and maybe years later you decide that you're falling in love with their best friend or their brother, and then you decide to get divorced and marry that other person, and maybe your ex-husband then decides to marry your other person. So it's kind of interesting when you can
so there was actually a divorce
couples.
And a remarriage.
Yeah,
that sort of swapping. Thank you for that explanation.
This is bad. This is bad. I think we need to take all that out and start over.
Well, we'll see what it sounds like on playback. There might be something we can
Play the
use
whole
there.
thing, even this. Let's go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, Steve, I need your paper. Okay, I'm just going to say this. The reason I chose this play is because I thought it was a very well-written play about 2 couples that divorced and ended up marrying the opposite person. And it's really neat because they haven't seen each other in 25 years. So I could just imagine what kind of emotions are going to arise to the surface after 25 years of not seeing your ex-husband or wife, and then knowing that they're with the opposite person. Pretty interesting. Here's exactly what the play's about.
So this is what, take 3?
Love is complicated. At least that certainly seems to be the thrust of the conversation between 2 couples who share a certain history with one another. So our play is about 2 couples who find themselves forced into a conversation with one another as they wait for the fog to lift. And as they do, the fog of time begins to lift on the relationships they shared with one another 25 years ago. It's not easy for a man to see what a woman sees in another man reflects one of the characters looking back in time. Will you get as good as you give? The ensemble of cast of 4 main characters engages in a fast repartee with one another, which is interrupted occasionally by the pilot of the grounded airplane. It's set in the late 1920s, and the show features an Elizabethan lecturer, who is Mr. Stephen Reese, and his housekeeper wife, which is Dixie Frazier, and a past her prime actress, which is our lovely Katie Brown, and her real estate developing husband, Mr. Kevin Knox. And what's great is their shared past form a basis for bitingly satiric. God, I can't talk at all. Take the microphone.
Okay. Well, perhaps at that point...
We're good at memorizing lines.
She didn't have a chance to memorize.
Say, hi, this is Zainab, and then hand it to one of us, and we will tell what the title is.
Right. Well, Katie has a microphone now, and you were the past your prime lady, right?
Yes.
So, Katie, you have the role of playing a past her prime lady, and you certainly don't look past your prime. How do you feel about that?
Well, I connect with it because it's been a lot of years since I've been on the stage, and so I decided to take a leap and do something interesting that I haven't done for myself in a long time, and I'm really excited to get to play this part because I feel like it is something that fits kind of where I'm at in my life right now, with just wanting to be this other person and having all of these emotions, and then at the same time being very theatrical. So I get to be this theatrical person.
Oh, I have to ask a question to whoever wishes to reply it. Do we have anyone here who has remarried the friend of a friend? I'm sure we don't have a totally mixed couple, but no one's in... Gosh.
No.
Everyone's on 0 or first time. Okay, but no.
At -1.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can ask that. Well, take the microphone. You can answer when I
I'm still
ask
married
that.
to my first wife,
Well,
47 years.
Let me get the question right first. Oh no, I'll do it out of sequence later.
No, I don't think so. I'm still married to my first wife. We're going to be 47 years in June. I took this role because I liked the character and I liked the interaction of him with his now wife, Clarice, but also when he sees Alberta, he's sort of like trying to reminisce some of the old stuff that might have happened before and thinking, it wasn't all that bad maybe. So Dawn, I like the character I play as Dawn, and I really like to kind of delve, as Zainab said, to delve into those emotions that are now kind of forced upon you.
Now, Dixie, have you been in other plays before?
Yes, I have. It can be challenging for me to do them, but as my kids are starting to get older, I think Katie and I are a little bit in the same space here where we're trying to kind of branch back out and get back into what we love. So I've been in Dearly Departed, and I've been in Shakespeare in Hollywood. We did Hillbilly Hankering, where I was Moll, in conjunction with some of the folks over in Van Vleck. I think my favorite by far was Shakespeare in Hollywood, where I was a chorus girl from Jersey, and I met Mr. Warner, and he promised to make me famous.
Well, perhaps we shouldn't go too much into what the promise involved. What made you choose this show?
I really was intrigued by all the different layers of the characters. And I want to say especially the two female characters, but that just may be because what I'm relating to. But it's almost like they're each two halves of who I am. You know, being the housewife and then wanting to be on stage and wanting attention and hating attention and feeling vulnerable, but trying to put on this confident air to the world. Like, you are this confident person on stage. You're this person who wants everybody to see how wonderful you are. And at the same time, you yourself aren't convinced that you are wonderful. And so it's all these different layers of bitterness and regret, along with still having hope for the future, and just wanting to delve into all of that and create this super rounded and faceted human to then, invite the audiences to share with. That was the real draw. The first time I read this script, I was so excited about it. Plus, sometimes it's funny.
Well, thank you, Dixie. Steve Reese, I see your name on just about every billboard that cast do. How do you feel about this show, and what do you think the audience will take away from it?
Well, I think the show has a lot of depth to it. The fact is that people are not one-dimensional, and in this particular show, we see these characters moving through every type of relationship and emotion that normally folks do, in fact, experience, from jealousy to depths of love to anger, explosive at times. And so that's kind of an interesting thing for the audience to see, and it's certainly interesting for the actors to try to express that to an audience, to show those different, sometimes subtle relationships that exist, as well as the in-your-face emotions that exist also.
Now, Steve, I've been going to ask you why you chose to be in this performance, but it seems you're in every performance. But what in particular stood out to you from this role, and why you chose it?
Well, I had already committed to Night on Broadway, which ended just before this show is beginning. And Zainab had spoken to me toward the end of last year. There are 5 characters in this show. One of them is the pilot, who has, I think, 10 lines. Zainab had asked, well, would you audition for the pilot? And I said, well, sure I will. So I sat up here with her during the auditions, and I helped read against some of the other actors. And after all the auditions were done, she asked, well, would you take this other role? And I certainly said yes, because I don't want to make Zainab mad, and also because it's a great challenge. And so it's a fun role. I'm glad she asked me to do this particular role. It is very enjoyable for me to do.
would like
Yeah.
to go on record as saying I have the same experience as Steve, where I ended up in a different role than I was initially led to believe that I would be playing.
Well, how
And-
different could it be? There were 2 women in the show. Were you to be the pilot?
No, be honest.
Well, are you saying there can't be a woman pilot?
No, I'm not. I'm just trying. I'm not going to go there. I'm just trying to understand what the difference in role was.
Oh, I want to tell this story. I do.
Oh,
It honestly ended up perfect. I will say that.
I'm gonna say this. So we never try to precast our when we're directing a play as a director. Once you read your script, you usually have in mind of who could really kill that character, right? Be excellent at that character. And immediately, I hadn't even met Miss Katie Brown yet. So I had, of course, worked with Dixie before, and I was like, oh, Dixie could be great at Clarice. So when I got my scripts, I said, I'd really like for you to read this part. And of course, she took the script, and as soon as she started reading it, she texted me immediately within minutes and said, oh my God, I want to be Clarice. So, of course, when we had auditions, just like with Steven, I have all the ladies read both parts because I want to see just how they're going to do for both and how they're going to interact with the other women that show up. And I have to tell you that the second night of auditions, even after night 1, I was like, well, Dixie did just as good on Clarice as she did Alberta. And I thought, well, let's just see what day 2 turns out to be. And when my producer said, you got to do the scene where Alberta's yelling at Alden, and that'll tell us who Alberta's going to be, Dixie nailed it. Nailed it twice. No offense,
I'm really
Katie,
good at
Katie
yelling
didn't
at
even
my
come
men.
close to what you did. And so I immediately said to her, I know you wanted Clarice, but how would you feel about being Alberta?
And
What did
like
you say?
Steve, I didn't want to make Zainab angry and never work in this town again. And to be honest, it took a hot. I agreed. And at first, I was looking at it entirely too shallowly, and I was like, "Of course, I'm going to be the housewife that just does the work and is kind of unseen and maybe seen as annoying, and otherwise, you're just hoping that she'll have your pants clean in the morning." But that was my fault, and I was not doing it enough justice to the character to recognize her as, the full-rounded human that she is, as all the characters are. And now I couldn't imagine anyone being Clarice except Katie because she is brilliant. I start breaking character and laughing in the middle of every rehearsal because Katie is amazing. And now I couldn't imagine it any other way. And I'm glad that Z was able to see that and cast us in the right parts.
She's a very great actress.
yeah. Well, let's ask Katie. Is this actually a comedy, Katie, or are you playing it lightheartedly? Is this meant to be a comedy?
She's a comedic person, but she's an actress, so she kind of treads the line of reality and stage. Like, she doesn't have... Everywhere's a stage to her if she wants it to be. If she has any sort of audience, she's going to play to that.
But this play is funny. It has a lot of really... And I'm hoping...
It's funny, but the characters
Are
don't
not.
think any
No.
of it.
No. Yeah.
What? No, I mean,
They have parts where...
They stab at each other. All
I
of
think
them
she's
do.
more wittingly funny than I am. I just say things like, I didn't know you were into swamps.
People change.
What's your favorite line? You don't have one?
I can never remember what they are until we go through rehearsal. And every time I'm like, that's one of my favorites.
No.
Yeah, but it's the reveal. You're not leaving me, are you? That's actually...
Can't say
It's
that.
not something I said. It's not anything I said. No, that's... but
I'm
that's-
sorry,
that's
David,
another-
we're
Yeah.
getting-
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
you can't really reveal that.
See, we laugh a lot.
Apparently, you do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I just met Katie. And I play her husband, her now husband, and that's
used to
like,
play my husband.
And I used to play your husband. Yeah.
See, we
So-
swapped there.
But I just enjoy that Katie
we did
is.
swap.
Katie is just so fun to be with, play against. And I think the height
Against
difference.
who?
Against her.
I like it.
No, me against her.
I like it.
Because it's like in my real life, my wife is like 5'2", and I'm 6'2", so I'm used to that difference.
I always have a hard time remembering what the line is that I love so much. Poor little unborn
It's over David's head right
Yeah,
now.
it is. It is.
Sorry,
It
David.
probably is.
You'll
It's
have to
okay.
You gotta come see the show.
I
You got
will.
tickets. It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last questions?
Yeah. So Zainab, I guess the play was your choice to start with, right? You chose this play?
Yes, I did.
And I imagine, because this is not your first rodeo nor your first play, you probably have a sense for, will it be popular or will it be a struggle to fill? How do you feel this play will do?
I think the minute people come see opening night, the talk of the town is going to be out and gossip's going to go around and everybody's going to want to come see this show.
I think so.
Well, let's certainly hope so. And tickets available now.
Tickets will be available now
Bravo.
at baycitycast.com.
Well, Katie, Dixie, Kevin, Steve, and of course Zainab, thank you all for your time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.